Right guys, how are you guys all doing? I'm going to do a really quick and easy video today explaining this common myth, clearing it up, hopefully once and for all. I've tried to clear this up so many times, but I've still heard people saying that they need to have their drums in mono or they need to have their bass in mono because they've heard this from other information sources on the internet, and it's really confused some people. I'm pretty sure most of you guys on my channel don't struggle with this at all, but there are still some people who struggle with this, and they get fed this false information, and then they end up making bad music essentially, or they end up structuring the whole stereo field of their track completely wrong and completely end up shooting themselves in the foot basically. So in sort of around 5 or 4 minutes I can really explain this to you guys, so it just becomes second nature, right? And I don't need to do editing, I don't need to show you in the door, just pay attention to my words, really simple, and you should get this understanding and it should be lodged in here for good, right? So here goes. Right, do your drums need to be in mono? No. Does your bass need to be in mono? No. Does any particular group or element need to be in mono? No. Does your bass need to have a powerful mono signal, a powerful mono aspect to its sound? Yes, that would be very helpful. Do your drums need a powerful mono signal, a powerful mono aspect to the sound? Yes, that's very, very helpful. So what's the difference there? The difference is they are not mono completely. They have a mono part to them, which is strong, but they are in stereo. The drums are in stereo, the bass is in stereo. So it's not one or the other, It's not you can only be mono or only stereo. It's that you have a stereo sound which has a strong mono aspect to it as well. So the mono part of the sound is what's directly straight down the middle. You can imagine it, If it was in mono, you'd only hear this. But if it's in stereo, you have the mono part down the middle and you have the stereo field, the left and the right as well. It's an addition, it's part of it as well. But having that extra stereo on the left and the right, on the bass or on the mono, doesn't weaken the mono of it, It doesn't change the fact that it has a strong mono signal. Okay? There are ways that you can try to make a sound more stereo, and in the process you can weaken it and weaken the mono part of the sound. This is when you over chorus stuff, you over reverb things, especially in the synth. Maybe you use a lot of unison, and you can quickly spread a sound so wide that the mono signal becomes weak. Okay? But during the whole process of producing, from sound design up to layering and post-processing, you can always have control that the mono part of the sound stays powerful, and you add extra stereo parts to the sound as well. So you have the best of both, right? And what you need to also notice or be aware of is that there is a true element to the fact that anything in this frequency spectrum below a certain number, I tend to say around 80 hertz. Other people might say 100, 150, but from my experience, 80 hertz is a great sort of benchmark. Everything below 80 hertz should be in mono. Okay? So that's those are the two fundamental rules, okay? Your drums don't need to be in mono, your bass doesn't need to be in mono. They need to be in stereo with a great powerful mono signal within them. And the other part is that nothing below 80 hertz should be in stereo. That should all be mono. And how do you do that? How do you make sure the part that has to be in mono is in mono? Which, remember, the only thing that has to be truly mono, only mono, is whatever is below 80 hertz in any sound. These are rules that can be broken. If you're doing complex sound design, if you're doing crazy things, you can break all of these rules, of course. You can go stereo in the low end. It will make your speakers go crazy. You won't have as clear and as clean as and powerful of a drop, which is, why this kind of, topic exists, because we want a powerful drop, right? So for a powerful drop, everything below 80 hertz should be in mono. And that doesn't mean you make your whole bass in mono now. It doesn't mean you make your whole drums in mono now. All it means is you take out the stereo from 80 hertz and below in all of your sounds. And this is so easy to do with a midside EQ. And that rhymed. It's very, very simple. You don't have to do anything fancy. At the end of your processing chain, whether that's in your drum group, whether that's in your bass group, you can do it right at the end in case you forget. You know, you don't have to do it right. You don't have to do it at the beginning. It's better to always do it at the end. So at the end, in your groups, you put on a midside EQ. Most DAWs already have these built in, or just download a free EQ plugin that has one. You cut out the sides. So you cut out the stereo, which is the sides, from 0 up to about 80 hertz. Smooth slope, ideally. Smooth is always better with EQing, remember. You cut out the sides, and then you've solved that problem of, you know, having an overly stereoed low end, which doesn't sound good in real life on a real system. Doesn't sound so nice. So you solve that issue, okay? And all you've had to do is a little midside EQ at the end. And so the whole concept of your drums need to be in mono, your bass needs to be in mono, the solution to all of that is midside EQ up to about 80 hertz on your groups at the end. That's all you've got to do. And then you can set it and forget it. Everything else, all of that nonsense, you can move on. You can forget about all of it, you know? Erase it all from your mind. Just think midside EQ at the end, 80 hertz and below. I've solved all of the problems, okay? One more little bonus tip. When I say 80 hertz, that's really the sort of the minimum, okay? You might want your drums to go up a little bit higher. Like I like to do this. I like to have my drum side cut my drums a little higher, maybe around 200 or 300 even, making them a bit more mono, you know, in the lower part of the spectrum. But the whole, you know, mid-range and high end is all in stereo. Believe it. Believe me, it is, because it's going to sound really thin and weak if it's not in stereo, especially on headphones. Even on speakers, it's going to sound really, really flat. Okay, so we want stereo powerful sounds, you know? So with drums, you could go a little bit higher, 200, 300 perhaps. But with your bass, you only go up to 80. And then you've created this like area between 80 and 200 or 300 where the bass has a bit more space in the stereo field in the lower part. And it can sort of wrap around the drums a bit more. So I love to do that in my mix downs, have my bass nice and wide and powerful, and it sort of wraps around the drums in that lower part of the spectrum. But then, you know, the whole bass from 80 and upwards is in stereo, you know, and then the drums, when you get up to 200 or 300 and then all the way up, they're in stereo again. Okay, so simple, super simple. You haven't got to do anything. You do mid-side EQ at the end. You put a little mid-side cut. Little side cut at the end, little side low cut, all the problems sorted. You haven't got to mono your whole bass, you haven't got to mono your whole drums. Your sound's going to be really thin and weak if you do that. So that's really it. It's really, really simple once you understand that. So you don't need to stress about making something into mono specifically. Where whoever's spread this false rumor has, you know, where these sort of Chinese whispers have you know, become false, is that it's made you think that it has to only be mono. But what the truth is that the drums and bass should have a powerful mono signal within them, but the whole thing is still a stereo sound. Yeah, so that's where it's gone wrong, this kind of rumor. It's like it's narrowed down so far to the point where it's only now mono, but that's not the case. It's mono and stereo. Okay, and everything below 80 is a minimum. That's just in mono, midside EQ, and you're done. All right, I hope this is the last time I have to make this video, but it probably won't be. Please help my channel blow up to 1 million subscribers so that this video gets out there, and then I'll stop having to repeat myself with the same videos. I'm just making these videos to help you guys out, so I appreciate you guys on the channel. Thanks very much. If you want to take things further with me, all the resources are down below. See you in the next one. Peace out.